Welcome, listeners. I'm Silas, your sleepy storyteller, pulling you down the rabbit hole of time, where dreams and memories intertwine. If you enjoy these videos, please tap the like button. It really helps. Also, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can keep drifting along on your sleepy journey through history. And before we wander down the rabbit hole, share your city and time in the comments. I love imagining our journey threading through every ticking clock. Now, take a moment to find a comfortable resting position. Close your eyes gently, and in your own time, allow yourself to sink into the quiet atmosphere of the past as we begin our slow journey together. The fog is already waiting for me as I step onto Whitechapel High Street. It coils low, as if the cobblestones themselves exhale it, thick and damp, wrapping itself around the gas lamps until their glow turns weak and yellow, smudged halos in the mist. The air is heavy, not with the crisp bite of night, but with the clotted smells of the city's bowels. Horse manure left to steam and rot, refuse piled in gutters, coal smoke drifting from chimneys that never cease their coughing. I breathe it in, and it clings to the inside of my throat like soot. The city is alive, but it is not living well. The poor and the desperate clutter the road like shadows wearing human skins. Some lie huddled in rags against walls, their bodies twitching with shivers they can't quiet. Others lean in doorways, eyes hollow, hands outstretched for pennies that never seem to come. A mother clutches her child close, her hair matted, her cheeks streaked with grime, whispering something I cannot hear over the clatter of a passing cart. The wheels throw mud onto her dress, and she doesn't even flinch. Above it all hangs the hush of fear. This is no ordinary night in Whitechapel. Every step, every whisper, every shifting shadow seems weighed down by something unseen, yet all too present. The fog thickens, not just with coal smoke, but with dread. And though I am but a quiet walker in the city of shadows, I feel the eyes on me, suspicious, searching, as if they too wonder what kind of man walks alone in Jack the Ripper's London. Out of the mist, figures emerge. Women, faces pale and lined, dresses tattered, eyes darting like hunted animals. They linger near doorways and alleys, leaning against lamp posts with feigned casualness. Their voices are low, practiced, each one offering the same desperate bargain, a night's warmth for a few coins, enough to buy a bed in one of the doss houses nearby. One of them steps directly into my path. Her shawl is thin, her teeth yellow in the lamplight, her breath sour with gin. She grips my sleeve with surprising strength. "Evening, love. A shilling and I'll see you right," she whispers, eyes flicking nervously into the fog. I shake my head gently, attempting to move past, but she presses closer, her words sharper now, edged with both hunger and fear. "Don't walk on by. I need it, you hear? A bed for the night, or I'll be left in the cold. Please." Her hand drifts lower, bold, reaching toward me. Then, suddenly, her eyes widen. Her head jerks toward the mist. There, across the street, stands a figure, motionless, cloaked in shadow, the face obscured, watching. The woman stiffens, her grip loosening. "No," she mutters, almost to herself. "Not tonight. Not him." She shoves past me, fleeing into the labyrinth of alleyways, her footsteps swallowed by fog. The figure lingers for a moment longer, then dissolves into the mist, as if it had never been there at all. I am left alone in the silence, the echo of her desperation clinging to me. This is Whitechapel's nightly ritual, the endless barter for survival, haunted always by the chance that the customer may be her executioner. Drawn by the sound of voices, I approach the 10 bells. Its lanterns glow faintly through the mist, promising warmth, though I know what lies within is no true comfort. The door groans as I push it open, and instantly the air changes. Gone is the cold, damp fog. Here the atmosphere is hot, close, and stinking of ale, sweat, and unwashed bodies. The smell is nearly worse than the street, thick with human heat and the sour tang of spilled drink. Inside, the pub is crowded. Men huddle over pints, their words low and urgent, rising at times into sharp bursts of laughter that sound more like barks than joy. Women mingle too, some sitting with men, others waiting near the walls, eyes scanning for opportunity. The air trembles with tension, like the pub itself is a cauldron of fear masked with ale. At one table, a group of Irish laborers laugh boisterously, their accents thick, their cheeks flushed with drink. Their laughter feels forced, like men clinging to mirth to keep dread at bay. Then, from another table, a native Londoner stands, weaving slightly from gin, his face twisted with scorn. "Go back to your bogs," he spits, his words slurred but sharp. "You Irish rats, flooding our streets, taking our bread, bringing your filth. Why don't you crawl back to the hole you came from?" The Irishmen stiffen. Their laughter dies. One stands, knocking over his mug, ale spilling across the table like blood. The crowd hushes, the air tightening as if holding its breath. "You'll regret that, English dog," the Irishman growls, his fist tightening. The Londoner sneers, lurching forward. "Big words from beggars. The rest is lost in the crack of fists. The Irishman swings hard. The Londoner collapses backward, and suddenly the pub erupts. Fists fly, chairs scrape, glass shatters. Men shout, women scream, the air alive with violence. I step back against the wall, heart pounding. The fight is brutal, savage. The Irishman pins the Londoner, his fist hammering again and again until the man's face is a ruin of blood. At last, the Irishman shoves him aside. The Londoner staggers upright, eyes glazed, blood dripping from his nose and mouth. He stumbles through the door, collapsing into the fog outside. The crowd murmurs, half shocked, half entertained. The Irishmen sit again, muttering curses, their laughter gone. I slip out quickly, shaken. The night air hits me cold, but it does nothing to wash away the image of that broken face, of blood shining in lamplight. Violence here is quick, merciless, born of hatred and sharpened by poverty. Prejudice is not just spoken. It is written in blood on Whitechapel's stones. Back on Whitechapel High Street, the fog is thicker still. Gas lamps flicker weakly, their halos shrinking as the mist devours them. The stench of refuse, smoke, and blood from the pub fight swirls together until the air itself feels poisonous. Everywhere I look, poverty festers. A man lies sprawled in the gutter, too drunk or too ill to rise. A child rummages through scraps near the market stalls, her hands black with soot, her dress ragged. An old woman coughs violently in a doorway, clutching her chest, her wheezes echoing down the street like a dying bellows. And through it all, eyes, always eyes, watching, judging, measuring. Suspicion laces every glance, every whisper, every shuffle in the fog. Whitechapel does not welcome strangers. It swallows them whole. I pause beneath a lamp, the light pale against the suffocating mist. Behind me, the muffled roar of the pub still echoes. Shouts, laughter, curses. Ahead, the street stretches into gloom. Its stones, slick with filth. Its shadows, endless. Already, the night has revealed more than enough. Women driven to desperation, men to violence, neighbors to hatred. Poverty and prejudice are the twin engines of this place, grinding down every soul until nothing is left but fear. And somewhere in this fog, though unseen tonight, lurks the figure that gives shape to all their terror. The whispers cling to him as tightly as the mist. They call him Jack. But I walk on, deeper into the fog, deeper into Whitechapel's shadows, where the line between man and phantom blurs. And with every step, I feel it more keenly. Here, death is not an intruder. It is the air they breathe. The fog follows me east, swallowing the lamplight in weak yellow halos as I turn toward Spitalfields Market. In daylight, this place is a storm of sound and color. Hawkers shouting, carts creaking. The smell of fresh produce tangled with the spice of distant shores. But at dusk, when the market closes, another face is revealed. The stalls stand abandoned, their wooden frames skeletal against the mist. Crates of spoiled vegetables lie smashed in the gutters, carrots and cabbages pulped into the mud, their rot sweet and sour in the air. Rats scurry across cobblestones, their bodies sleek with filth, bold enough to dart between my feet. Children crouch nearby, their hands darting quick as the rats, plucking what scraps remain edible. A boy no older than 7 gnaws at a bruised apple, his cheeks hollow, his eyes ringed with shadows that belong to men thrice his age. Another child digs into a half-split sack of flour, pressing the powder into her mouth with trembling fingers, coughing as it chokes her throat. No one stops them. Hunger here is louder than pity. Above it all, voices cut through the mist. Newspaper boys, their cries sharp as knives. Another horror in Whitechapel. Fiend strikes again. Women not safe in the streets. Jack the Ripper. Still at large. They wave papers aloft, their headlines stamped in black ink like fresh wounds. The boys' voices crack with urgency, each syllable pitched to pierce the fog and pry coins from trembling hands. A man in a ragged coat thrusts a penny forward, snatching a sheet as though it were salvation itself. He unfolds it under the dim glow of a gas lamp, his eyes racing across the words. His lips move silently, repeating phrases to himself. Behind him, others gather, pressing close to glimpse the lurid details, each face tightening, paling. I draw closer. One paper flaps loose in the wind, plastering itself against a wall. The headline is a scream. The Whitechapel horror continues. Beneath, crude sketches show twisted alleys, silhouettes of women, a shadowed figure that might be anyone, or no one at all. The words drip with sensationalism, each sentence designed not to inform, but to inflame. I read, "The fiend strikes under cover of fog, leaving terror in his wake. Women beware, for the very streets of London have become a hunting ground. My fingers trace the ink, still damp, smearing black across my skin. The paper stinks of cheap dye and panic. I realize how quickly hysteria spreads, not on the knife of a killer, but on the tongues of men eager to sell fear. The real contagion is not death, but dread. I leave the market behind, its empty stalls like rib bones jutting against the fog. The cries of newspaper boys fade into the night, replaced by the muffled growl of voices deeper in the alleys. Thrall Street lies ahead, a vein of poverty that pulses in the heart of Whitechapel. Its entrance is narrow, almost swallowed by leaning tenements whose windows droop like tired eyes. The air grows thicker here, the stench rising to choke. It is a stew of human breath, stale gin, urine, and smoke, simmering in air that never stirs. I press a handkerchief to my face, but it does little to block the assault. A lantern flickers weakly above a doorway, its light barely cutting through the dark. Painted on the wood in faded letters, lodging for men and women, 4 pence a night. This is no inn, it is a doss house, one of dozens on Thrall Street. Inside, the poor pay pennies to sleep on benches or on ropes strung across rooms, leaning into them like cattle in a pen. I step inside. The air hits me like a blow. Thick, wet, suffocating. The room is crowded, bodies pressed shoulder to shoulder, the heat of their breath rising like steam. Men slump against ropes, heads nodding, eyes glazed. Women curl on benches, skirts pulled tight around their legs, arms cradling bundles that may be children or simply rags. The floor is slick with spilled drink and mud tracked in from the streets. The smell of gin dominates, sharp and medicinal, covering the deeper stench of sweat and rot. Some are awake, muttering or singing in slurred tones. One man stares at the wall, lips moving silently, eyes wide as though haunted by visions only he can see. Another rocks back and forth, clutching a bottle like it is the last friend he has. In the corner, a woman weeps softly. A girl, perhaps 16, pats her shoulder, whispering promises I cannot hear. The woman's hands shake, and I see her nails are broken, her skin bruised. She clutches the girl's hand like it is the only thing tethering her to the earth. I stand still, absorbing the weight of it. This is not a lodging house. It is a waiting room for despair. The people here are not living. They are clinging, minute by minute, to whatever shred of existence pennies can buy. Outside, a shout splits the night. The door bursts open, and 2 men stumble into the street, locked in a drunken grapple. One clutches a bottle, swinging it wildly. The other snarls, his face red, his fists bloody from strikes already thrown. They stagger and crash into the wall, then spill into the gutter. "Mine! It was mine!" One bellows, spitting blood. "Liar!" "You stole it," the other snarls back. Their fists fly again, dull thuds against flesh. The bottle smashes, shards scattering into the mud. The crowd spills from the lodging house, circling, jeering, their voices sharp with bloodlust. No one intervenes. Violence is entertainment here, and desperation always finds an audience. The fight ends abruptly. One man collapses, face first in the filth. unmoving. The other stumbles back, panting, his chest heaving. For a moment, silence falls. Then laughter erupts, cruel, jagged. Someone tosses a coin onto the fallen man's back, and the crowd disperses, muttering, chuckling, slipping back into the shadows. The man in the gutter groans, rolling weakly onto his side. No one helps him. No one even looks back. He will either rise or not. It makes no difference to Whitechapel. I stand rooted, my chest tight, my breath shallow. The air feels heavier here, the fog denser, as though the street itself is conspiring to choke me. Everywhere I look, poverty is not just visible, it is alive. It snarls in drunken brawls. It whispers in the tears of women. It gnaws at the bones of children. And yet, overlaying it all is the press hysteria I saw in Spitalfields Market. The boys shouting headlines, the men clutching papers, the whispers repeated as truth. Fear is not only in the alleys, it is on every tongue, inked on every page, carried by every voice. I recall the woman at the docks who fled at the sight of a shadow. I recall the bloodied man in the pub, beaten for no greater sin than being Irish. And now I see it here, in the lodging houses, in the market stalls, in the fists thrown over spilled ale. Poverty has made people fragile, and fear has made them cruel. Whitechapel is not merely haunted by a killer. It is corroded by its own hunger, its own paranoia. The fog presses closer as I step deeper into Thrall Street. Behind me, the market sleeps in silence, its stalls broken and rotting. Ahead, the lodging houses hum with restless bodies, their sighs and mutters leaking into the night. A woman coughs, her body bent double, blood flecking her lips. A child whimpers in her arms. She pulls her shawl tighter and vanishes into the mist. The crowd from the brawl has melted away, but the echo of their laughter still clings to the walls. The man in the gutter has rolled onto his back, eyes closed, lips moving faintly in prayer or delirium. I walk on, my footsteps muffled by mud, my heart heavy with the weight of it all. The market of hunger, the voices of panic, they will not fade with the night. They will only grow, fed by ink, by poverty, by the fog itself. And somewhere in this darkness, unseen but always felt, a shadow waits. A shadow with a knife. The fog does not lift, it thickens. It clings to Whitechapel like a shroud, wrapping around the corners of buildings and swallowing every gas lamp until their glow seems no stronger than a dying candle. My boots strike wet cobblestones as I turn onto Hanbury Street, and the air grows heavier, the stench sharper. Rot, coal smoke, gin, and waste merge into something that burns in the nose and settles in the throat like ash. The alley narrows, walls leaning toward one another like conspirators. Their bricks are blackened, cracked, damp, with centuries of neglect. Window shutters creak above, though no faces peer down. Every flicker of gaslight twitches as though it hides movement. Every shadow stretches too far. Whitechapel is alive tonight, but not with life. Rather, with hunger and threat. A beast pacing behind its cage of fog. A woman rushes past me, clutching a frayed shawl to her chest. Her hair spills from its pins, wild and tangled, and her bare feet slap against the stones as she mutters broken prayers. She does not see me, or perhaps she sees too much and dares not stop. The hem of her skirt is stained dark, though whether from mud or blood I cannot tell. She vanishes into the fog, swallowed whole as if the alley itself devoured her. Farther ahead, the mutter of voices grows into the coarse sound of men laughing. A group emerges, silhouettes swaying with the rhythm of drunkenness. Their coats hang open, their hats askew, their steps uncertain yet aggressive. They move like predators who have no need for stealth. The stench of gin rolls before them, mingling with sweat and piss. Their laughter sharpens into words, jokes spat between slurs, stories punctuated with belches. One man stumbles, then rights himself, pointing toward me with a crooked finger. His eyes catch mine, red and glassy, glinting in the lamplight. "What you staring at, then?" he growls, his voice thick with drink. The others turn. 5 faces, all gaunt, all hard. Their gazes fix on me, pinning me as though I've stepped into their circle uninvited. One man chuckles, low and mean. "Think he's better than us. Standing there like a bloody ghost," another sneers. They close the distance, their boots scuffing the stones. The first man takes a step closer, close enough that I can smell the sour gin on his breath. "You got something to say, stranger?" His voice cracks into a challenge. "Or are you just another coward come to gawk?" I keep my face still, my body calm. The night hums with danger. The fog thickens around us, muting the world until it feels as though only we exist. Me, and 5 men whose laughter sharpens into blades. Silence stretches. My heart hammers. Yet I do not answer. I turn instead, slowly, and begin to walk away. My steps are measured, steady, though each feels heavy with their eyes on my back. Behind me, the silence breaks into jeering. "Nothing but a dog with his tail between his legs!" And then, the sharpest cut. "Walk away then, bitch!" Their laughter explodes, coarse and cruel, bouncing off the walls of Hanbury Street until it fills the alley. I keep walking. My fists ache to tighten, my muscles burn to turn, but I do not. Tonight, I am not here to fight. Tonight, I am here to witness. Still, a part of me simmers, a part that whispers how easily I could have ended one of them. Maybe not all 5, but 1 or 2 would not have walked home. The thought is bitter in my mouth, a taste of violence swallowed with restraint. The laughter fades as I leave them behind, swallowed by the fog. Yet their jeers echo long after, crawling through my skull, reminding me that in Whitechapel, danger does not need a knife. Sometimes, it only needs a word, sharp as any blade. The alleys twist, narrowing into shadows that smell of mold and gin. I turn into Dorset Street. Even its name has become a curse. They call it the worst street in London. And the moment I step onto it, I understand why. The buildings crouch low, blackened with soot, their bricks weeping with damp. Windows are shattered or stuffed with rags. The gutters overflow with slime, a mixture of filth and rain that laps at the edges of the cobblestones. The very air seems rotten, a sour mix of gin breath, smoke, and decay. And the people, God, the people. They swarm the street like shadows, hunched and shivering, their eyes glassy with drink or fever. Prostitutes linger at the corners, their dresses torn and stained, their faces powdered but weary. Men stagger arm in arm, singing tunelessly, their voices slurred. Others lean against walls, too drunk to stand, their bodies twitching with the restless sleep of gin. The air is thick with violence, and I do not have to wait long to see it. A shout erupts at the far end of the street. Then another, harsher, angrier. I press closer, the crowd parting as though drawn toward the sound. Two gangs face each other in the middle of Dorset Street. Rough men in tattered coats, their hands clutching knives that glint under the gas lamps. Their voices are loud, furious, spilling threats and curses into the night. One spits on the ground. Another lunges forward, blade flashing. The fight explodes. Steel meets flesh with a sickening sound. A man screams, clutching his arm as blood spills dark against his sleeve. Another swings his knife wild, catching his opponent across the cheek. The crowd roars, some cheering, some crying out in horror. The cobblestones slick with blood and rain. I stand at the edge, my breath shallow. The air crackles with madness, every blow feeding the frenzy. The gangs clash, retreat, surge forward again, their knives rising and falling like the tide. A man stumbles, cut deep across the chest. He gasps, his breath bubbling red, but no one helps him. He is dragged backward by his comrades, discarded against the wall. Then whistles, sharp, shrill, desperate. Police surge into the alley, their truncheons raised, their lanterns swinging wild. For a moment, it seems order might return. But the gangs scatter, slipping into alleys, scaling walls, vanishing into the fog. The officers chase them, shouting, stumbling over the wounded, their formation breaking instantly. Some swing their truncheons aimlessly. Others grab bystanders, demanding answers no one can give. The chaos multiplies. The gangs are gone. The man bleeding in the gutter groans. A constable kneels, presses a cloth to the wound, shouting for help that does not come. The crowd disperses quickly, already muttering about the incompetence of the law. I watch, chilled. Here, even the police are powerless. Their whistles blow, their truncheons swing, but the gangs slip away untouched. The law is only theater, a stage act played before an audience that no longer believes. I walk on, my steps slow, the fog curling tight around me. The laughter of the drunken men on Hanbury Street echoes in my memory. I think of their jeers, their eyes fixed on me, the weight of their challenge pressing against my skin. My anger had flared then, sharp and dangerous. A part of me had wanted to answer it, to prove myself against their cruelty. But now, after Dorset Street, I feel only relief. Relief that I walked away, that I did not let my temper write my epitaph. Here, in Whitechapel, death comes swiftly and without ceremony. A word, a glance, a step in the wrong direction, and you are swallowed. Knives flash, blood flows, and no one remembers you by morning. The gangs, the drunken brawls, the useless police, all of it paints the same picture. Whitechapel is a place where life is cheap and anger is currency. The only wisdom here is restraint. To fight is to die. To live is to walk away. And yet, even as I reflect, I cannot ignore the gnawing truth. Part of me is unsettled by my own calm. Part of me still bristles at the thought of their laughter, their jeers. In another place, on another night, perhaps I would not have walked away. But here, I am not myself. Here, I am an intruder. And Whitechapel devours intruders whole. I turn from Dorset Street, the fog thick with smoke and whispers. Behind me, the cobblestones still shine wet with blood. Ahead, the alleys stretch on, narrow and endless, their mouths open like waiting graves. The fog deepens as I push on, curling low and clinging to the stones. My boots strike against puddles turned black by soot, and the taste of coal smoke coats my tongue. Dorset Street lies behind me, its blood still fresh in my memory. But Whitechapel allows no reprieve. Each turn of the road delivers me into a new shadow, a new wound cut into the body of this place. Ahead, lanterns glow faintly against stone walls. They hang like fireflies trapped in glass, barely illuminating the structure they cling to. It rises out of the fog like a fortress, long, low, its windows barred, its doors heavy and unwelcoming. The Whitechapel workhouse. Here, poverty is not hidden in alleys or crouched under doorways. Here, it is caged, contained, and regimented into survival. The walls themselves seem to groan under the weight of suffering. The lamps flicker against barred windows, their glow just enough to catch glimpses inside. Faces pale and hollow, eyes wide with hunger and despair. At the gate, a line stretches into the mist. Mothers clutching infants against their chests, the children's cries muffled under shawls. Old men hunched and trembling, their hands gripping canes like lifelines. Young boys with dirt caked across their faces, staring with eyes too old for their years. Each waits with silent desperation, hoping for admittance before the night grows colder. A man near the front turns suddenly, his voice ragged. "For God's sake, let us in! We've been waiting since sundown." His cry echoes down the street, swallowed by the fog. A uniformed keeper appears at the gate, his expression hard as the stones around him. "There's no room," he snaps, his voice clipped and final. "Try the Mile End House, or sleep where ye can." A wail rises from a woman in the line. She clutches her child tighter, her voice breaking into sobs. Others mutter angrily, but none move forward. They know resistance is useless. The keeper slams the gate shut, and the sound reverberates like a coffin lid. From within, I hear them, the cries of those already inside. They do not sound like relief. They sound like surrender. The workhouse is no sanctuary. It is a cage. The desperate beg to enter not for safety, but for bare survival. Bread crusts, thin broth, a roof over their heads. A place where dignity is stripped away as efficiently as hunger. I stand a moment longer, watching the line slowly dissolve. Some drift toward the alleys, searching for doorways to curl into. Others simply slump to the cobbles, their eyes hollow, their bodies spent. A child coughs violently, the sound rattling in his chest. His mother rubs his back, whispering soothing lies. The workhouse lantern flickers again, and for a heartbeat, I imagine it extinguished. What then? Where would they all go? Whitechapel would devour them, as it devours everything. I turn away, heart heavy, and step back into the fog. The church spire pierces the mist ahead, its silhouette jagged against the weak light of the moon. St. Botolph's without Aldgate, the Church of Prostitutes, they call it. A cruel title, but a true one. Here, women gather in the shadows, seeking some blessing, some protection before they return to streets where predators wait. The cobblestones grow quieter as I near the church. My footsteps echo, hollow and sharp. The air here feels thinner, stretched between prayer and despair. A cluster of women kneel near the church wall, their shawls drawn tight against the night. Their voices murmur, blending prayers into the fog. One crosses herself repeatedly, lips moving so fast the words blur together. Another simply stares at the church door, as though daring it to open, to offer her the sanctuary she knows will never come. The heavy oak door creaks, spilling a faint glow of candlelight into the night. Inside, I glimpse figures on benches, heads bowed, hands clenched. The church should be a refuge, but even here, unease clings like smoke. Faith wrestles with fear, and fear wins. Then it happens. A scream rips through the fog. High, raw, desperate. Every head jerks up. A woman bursts from the shadows, her dress torn, her hair wild. She runs full tilt toward the church, her eyes wide with terror. Behind her, the alley gapes like a wound. "He followed me," she shrieks, her voice cracking. He tried to grab me." Her words disintegrate into sobs. She slams against the church door, pounding her fists, begging for entry. The other women scatter, clutching at one another, their eyes darting into the darkness. I turn, searching the shadows she fled. The fog is thick, but movement stirs within it. A figure, indistinct, lurking just beyond the reach of the gaslight. For a moment, it seems to lean forward, to watch us. My chest tightens. Then, as though the fog itself swallows him, the figure dissolves into nothing. The woman's screams echo off the church walls. Finally, the door creaks wider, and she collapses inside, sobbing into the arms of another. The door slams shut, the echo like thunder. Outside, the women cling closer, their prayers quickened, their eyes fixed on every shadow. The paranoia is palpable now, sharp as a blade. Every flicker of movement, every whisper of wind feels like danger. They are not just afraid of the Ripper. They are afraid of every man, every stranger, every shadow. Fear has hollowed this place out until nothing remains but suspicion. I step back, my gaze shifting between the barred walls of the workhouse and the trembling women outside the church. Two institutions stand side by side, one offering survival stripped of dignity, the other offering faith smothered by fear. Neither can shield the people of Whitechapel from the terror that stalks them. At the workhouse, despair was caged. At the church, fear runs free. Both crush the soul, one by deprivation, the other by paranoia. I feel it pressing on me too. Eyes glance my way, sharp and suspicious. In the fog, I am the outsider, the stranger. The women's whispers curl around me like smoke, their glances quick, searching. For them, trust is impossible now. Everyone is suspect. I walk on, my footsteps slow, the church's faint light dwindling behind me. The night feels heavier, the shadows more watchful. Whitechapel breathes against my neck, whispering, warning. Its fear is not just in its alleys and streets, it seeps into its very stones. And I know, as I move deeper into its heart, that the worst is still ahead. The fog coils tighter as I move deeper into Whitechapel's bowels. The alleys behind me still thrum with the echoes of screams and whispers, but here the silence grows different, thicker, purposeful, as though the very stones are holding their breath. Ahead, Mitre Square yawns open, a hollow void in the labyrinth of London's East End. The cobblestones glisten beneath the sputtering gas lamps, each flame stretching long shadows into the corners. Mitre Square is empty at first glance, yet it feels inhabited, not by people, but by memory. The silence here is not peace. It is haunted. A constable paces along the far wall, his boots striking against stone with sharp impatience. Another leans against the lamppost, arms folded, eyes darting from shadow to shadow, as if he expects the fog itself to lunge. Their voices break the stillness in low, muttering tones. "I tell you, the letters are real," one insists, his accent thick, his voice tight with conviction. The other scoffs, though unease flickers in his eyes. From hell, from heaven, from bloody nowhere, what's it matter? We've no closer to catching him, not with half the city writing threats to see their words in the papers. Still, the first mutters, glancing at the ground, this place remembers. You can feel it. I follow his gaze, and the cobbles seem to twist beneath me. In the lamplight, I imagine stains, dark and spreading, as though the stones themselves have drunk horrors they cannot forget. The constable is right. The square remembers. Every step feels like trespass, each breath heavier than the last. A third officer emerges from the fog, clutching a scrap of paper. His voice trembles as he reads aloud, "I am down on whores, and I shan't quit ripping them till I do get buckled." His voice falters, and the silence swallows him whole. They stare at one another, the letter hanging between them like a curse. None dare finish it aloud. From the shadows, a woman hurries past, her shawl drawn tightly around her shoulders. She glances at the square, then looks away, quickening her pace. Even the living avoid Mitre Square now, as though to linger is to invite the same fate. I remain a moment longer, my own breath shallow, before moving on. The silence clings to me like smoke, following me into the streets beyond. The next turn delivers me to a new kind of chaos. Where Mitre Square is silence, the police station on Commercial Street is noise. Angry, restless, demanding. The crowd gathers thick outside its doors, a seething mass of townsfolk with faces twisted by fear and rage. Their lanterns bob like restless fireflies. Their voices clash and echo, filling the street with heat and tension. "Where are the patrols?" a woman cries, clutching the arm of her husband. "Do they mean to leave us to die in the streets?" A man shoves forward, his fists balled. "We pay our taxes. We deserve protection." His voice rises, and others echo him, the chant spreading like wildfire. "Protection! Protection!" The police at the door do their best to contain the surge, but their shouts carry no authority. Their eyes flick nervously toward the crowd, their hands uncertain on their batons. They are not protectors tonight. They are targets, as distrusted as the shadows that birthed the terror. I edge closer, slipping among the crowd, and peer through the tall windows of the station. Inside, the scene is worse. Constables rush back and forth, their notes fluttering like startled birds. One officer yells at another, demanding names and times, some memes, only to be answered with a shrug and muttered confusion. A third scrambles through a pile of papers, knocking half to the floor. The room is hot with sweat, voices rising in overlapping waves. In the corner, a sergeant barks orders that no one seems to follow. "Interview the witnesses again," he cries, slamming a fist against the desk. "Check the bloody alleys." But his commands dissolve into the noise, lost as quickly as they're given. I see them argue over letters, the same scraps muttered about in Mitre Square. One insists the handwriting is the killer's. Another swears it is a journalist's hoax. They debate ink, spelling, punctuation, all while the streets outside drown in fear. From the crowd around me, suspicion spreads like rot. A woman clutches her daughter tighter, her gaze flicking to every man who passes. A drunkard mutters that the killer must be a foreigner, pointing toward a Jewish tradesman trying to slip by unnoticed. Shouts erupt. Accusations hissed, fingers jabbed, fists raised. Only the arrival of 2 constables at the door prevents the crowd from turning violent. But even that does little. I hear a voice near me snarl, "They're all useless. If they can't catch him, we'll take matters into our own hands." Murmurs of agreement ripple outward. The line between justice and vengeance thins until it is nearly invisible. Inside the station, the chaos continues. I glimpse a constable, scribbling a note only to tear it up seconds later, the pieces fluttering to the ground. Another argues about the position of a body in an alley, while his companion insists he's confusing 2 different scenes. The confusion is total, the incompetence laid bare. The police have become actors in a farce, their authority a costume frayed and threadbare. And outside, the crowd knows it. I step back from the station, my chest tight with the weight of what I've seen. Mitre Square, haunted silence, memory carved into stone. The police station, chaos and futility, authority turned inside out. Together, they are proof that Whitechapel has slipped beyond the reach of order. Here, justice is no shield. The law is no comfort. The very institutions built to protect have become part of the fear, their failures magnifying the hysteria until it spreads unchecked. I glance at the faces in the crowd, eyes hard, mouths twisted. Their suspicion leaps from stranger to stranger, a torch passed from hand to hand. In their gaze, I feel it again. That whisper of danger, that sense of being weighed and judged. The fog swirls heavier now, cloaking the street, muffling the voices. But the anger and fear remain. They cling to the air, to the stones, to me. Whitechapel is unraveling, thread by thread, and law itself is no longer the weaver. It is another frayed strand in the tapestry of terror. I turn and walk away, but the noise follows me. The chants of the crowd, the shouts of the officers, the whispers of suspicion. They all chase me into the fog. And as the lamps flicker dimmer, I cannot shake the certainty that the night ahead holds worse still. The fog drifts heavier now, carrying with it the stink of smoke, sweat, and something sourer, fear itself. Brick Lane stretches ahead, like a corridor carved out of despair, its market stalls long shuttered, their canvas awnings sagging with damp. Rats skitter between overturned crates where rotting vegetables ooze into the cobblestones. The gas lamps here sputter, their light fractured by mist, flickering as if even the flame itself fears this street. From broken windows above, pale faces peer down at me. Curtains twitch. Children's eyes, wide and unblinking, watch as though to measure whether I belong, or whether I might be the very shadow whispered about in the alleys. Suspicion clings to the air as tightly as the coal smoke that chokes it. I feel their gaze on me, weighing me, as though my very presence requires explanation. Ahead, the frying pan pub glows faintly, its doorway spilling warm amber light into the fog. The sound of laughter filters out, but it is not the laughter of joy. It is brittle, cracked, the laughter of those too desperate to drink away terror. I step closer. The pub door swings open, releasing a wash of heat, ale, and noise. A group of ragged women loiter outside, their shawls pulled tight against the chill. Their faces are lined with exhaustion, with hunger. These are not women of choice, but of survival. Their eyes dart up and down the lane, scanning for men with coins enough to buy them another night's lodging. One breaks from the group, staggering toward me. Her breath reeks of gin, her eyes glassy but sharp in their desperation. "You've coin for me, sir?" she asks, her voice half whisper, half plea. She steps closer, pressing herself forward, her hand brushing at my coat. "Just 4p. That's all it takes. 4p for a bed, 4p, or the streets all night." Her tone sharpens, the edge of desperation becoming aggression. "Don't walk on, sir. Don't think yourself above it. A man's warmth for my coin. Fair trade." Her hand clutches at me now, her gaze intense, too close. For a moment, she stares as though she would not let me pass without purchase. Then suddenly, she freezes. Her eyes shift over my shoulder. I turn, but the fog conceals everything save for a shadow, tall, still watching. The outline of a man, unmoving, cloaked by mist. My skin prickles. The woman gasps, stepping back as though she has glimpsed the devil himself. Her hand slips from my coat. She mutters something incoherent and flees, vanishing into the pub's doorway, leaving me alone in the fog with the figure's outline still hanging in the corner of my vision. When I look again, he is gone. I linger a moment longer outside the frying pan. Its cracked windows glow with lamplight, illuminating the shapes of patrons hunched over their mugs. This place, I know, has become part of legend, a stop on the doomed path. Women leave here not for home but for the streets, seeking the coins that will spare them the cold floor of the doss house. I imagine one such woman, driven from the warmth by empty pockets, turned away at the lodging house for want of 4p, walking these same cobbles. She would head into the fog not for choice but for survival, each step a gamble with fate. She would not know that tonight the wager was fixed, and death waited in the mist. I feel the weight of her story pressing against these walls, a presence heavier than the laughter within. The fog grows denser as I leave Brick Lane, carrying me toward Buck's Row. The street lies in near darkness, gas lamps weak against the tide of mist. And there, at its edge, I see them. A crowd has gathered, their lanterns bobbing like restless souls. Their voices are hushed, tremulous, charged with something between awe and revulsion. I draw closer, my boots sinking into the damp mud, and the murmurs sharpen into words. She's gone, poor girl, gone like the others. Her throat. My God, did you see her throat? I hesitate at the edge, my chest tightening. Curiosity pulls me forward, fear holds me back. Still, I step closer until I can see enough. The lantern light spills across the cobblestones, revealing the body sprawled in the gutter. I see the truth written across her stillness. Her clothing torn, blood pooled, her form brutalized in ways the fog mercifully veils from full clarity. The lanterns sway, casting light in cruel fragments, and I glimpse only enough to know the horror is complete. The faces around me are pale, their eyes wide. Some weep, others only stare, transfixed by the grotesque spectacle. My breath comes shallow. My throat tightens. I cannot step closer. Not tonight. From where I stand, I have seen enough to carry with me forever. And then it happens. A woman in the crowd turns her face toward me. Her eyes narrow, her lips part. She leans to whisper to another, and that whisper spreads like fire through dry brush. Who is he? Why does he walk so late? Stranger, ain't he? Don't look right. The air changes. Where before it was horror, now it is suspicion. Faces turn, one after another, until the crowd's gaze settles upon me. Their eyes are sharp, probing, accusing. My heart pounds. I see myself through their eyes now. An outsider, cloaked in fog, a man alone, walking late through streets stained with death. I think of how easily suspicion drapes itself across any shoulders. Mine, as much as another's. The murmurs rise. The crowd shifts. My chest tightens as though the noose already slips around it. In that instant, I remember the figure from earlier. The man cloaked in shadow, standing still in the fog, watching. To me, he was terror. To her, I was salvation. But now, to this crowd, I am the shadow. I feel the weight of it pressing down, the hysteria, the hunger for answers, the desperation for someone, anyone, to blame. And in their eyes, I see the dawning possibility that tonight, the scapegoat might be me. My breath comes shallow. My feet feel heavy. To run is to confirm suspicion. To stand is to invite it. So I do the only thing left. I slip backward, slow, measured, careful not to draw more eyes. The fog swallows me, merciful in its thickness, concealing me as I retreat. Still, I hear them, voices chasing me, whispers clinging to my coat. Who was he? Where'd he go? Strange man, stranger in the night. I walk faster, heart hammering, until the voices fade. The fog closes in and the lamps fall away. I am alone again, but the knowledge gnaws at me. In Whitechapel, suspicion is never sated. The mob needs no evidence, no reason, no truth, only a target. Tonight, it nearly found one in me. Brick Lane, the frying pan, Buck's Row. The path winds with despair, ending in horror. Poverty festers here. Prejudice ignites violence. Law collapses into farce, and fear devours reason whole. And yet, the most terrifying truth is not the shadow in the fog, nor the corpse on the cobblestones. It is this. In a city so desperate for answers, anyone can become the villain. The ropes may never tighten around my throat, but their whispers already have. So I leave Whitechapel behind, slipping into the darkness, their suspicion trailing me like smoke. And though the fog swallows the streets, I know it cannot smother what I carry now. The certainty that hysteria makes monsters not of killers alone, but of crowds, of neighbors, of fear itself. Rest easy, friends. The rabbit hole of time holds many more slow steps. Until we meet again, Silas is signing off.